Is it possible these boxes hold new affordable innovation or a disappointing new sticker? Oh, you won't actually believe the mistake that they've made. Oh yeah, just like the P790, it goes an incredibly long way. These look better than I thought. Hang on a minute, surely that can't be right. Why have you put it there? I've been a big fan of Ben Ross for multiple years. However, unlike the good old days of the only brand doing affordable, good quality equipment, let's be honest, in 2024, there's a lot of competition that are doing incredibly good work. Could this finally be the time that they've stopped bringing, well, a knife to a gunfight? But just like every affordable iron set out on the market, there has to be flaws. My job is to show the flaws and you guys weigh up whether those flaws are big enough to not buy the cheapest iron set on the market that you can, well, get fitted for. So we're going to start with the cheapest iron set out of these two and the remarkably good looking set that I'm very excited to test and see, well, what's wrong with it. But unlike the other affordable direct-to-consumer iron brands that I get to test here in the studio and point out the obvious flaws of where you're actually saving money from, both of these iron sets are exclusive to American Golf, and unlike others, you can go and get fitted for them. Length, lie, shaft, flex. The cheaper of the two irons is what I expect from Ben Ross. Safe. However, safe isn't necessarily bad, and let me explain why I think these could be a lot better than a lot of high-end brand irons, purely from the way that they're built, and at a price of £369 for a set, custom fitted, brand new. I mean, that is quite an easy sale. But just what I like doing with all affordable iron sets I get through the door, quality control. What dinks, what marks, what defects can I find in this box? You won't actually believe the mistake that they've made. Now, in terms of club build, arguably one of the best that I've seen. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I couldn't find a single flaw with the heads, apart from potentially the Ben Ross writing. For example, you see how thick that one is there and then quite thin. The letter on the B is a bit thicker than potentially the rest of the lettering on the bottom. Again, not much, and I guess that's probably a good sign if that's the only thing I could really pick out of. And I have to say, appearance-wise, especially with this like little carbon effect, which is obviously a sticker on the back there, I do think these look quite good. However, can anyone see a problem with this set? I mean, it's going to be difficult to test it against other 7 irons. The irony is that both the 6 irons are cut to a different length. The 6 iron on the bottom is actually cut to a 7 iron length. I mean, I did find that hilarious. However, we'll do 8 iron testing, and an important one at that, because automatically as golfers, we presume big, chunky, thick means de-lofted. However, you'll be surprised to know one of the most popular irons on the market, the P790, is less lofted than, well, these. But Simon, why is that a good thing? Why do I want a big cavity back iron that has quite a lot of loft? Well, it's kind of for that swing right there. Incredibly steep, incredibly across it, incredibly low launch with the P790. And don't get me wrong, a lesson's going to help this golfer more than any equipment, cheap, expensive, anything like that. However, the point is, I want you guys to think about your iron sets on 2 variables. An iron that's going to give you loads of distance. Don't get me wrong, that golfer there catches it right, stands up through their swing. It's going to go a lot further than, well, this. But also at the same time, that golfer isn't going to get the stars to align. And when he does come over the top, a good portion of the time, it's going to want to go right. Therefore, more backspin, more loft is, well, potentially going to help the bad shot a lot better. Again, as you can see, I'm not a robot, but it's pretty close and a tiny bit more launch, even though this 8 iron is only a couple degrees more higher lofted than the P790. But then again, there's other variables. This is a 105 stiff. This is a light, regular flex shaft. Not to mention, you can get fitted for length and lie angle to help straighten up that as well. As far as I'm aware, the Aero XF is one of the highest lofted cavity back irons, and for golfers that spend a lot of time doing, well, this, well, it does mean you might actually have a chance of, well, getting your ball up in the air. And to be fair, you might be thinking, Simon, unfair test. You should have used something more like this from TaylorMade against this. And yes, head design-wise, forgiveness-wise, yes, these are exactly the same, and TaylorMade would build you a set of clubs for that, but this is geared for distance as well. 32 degrees 8-iron loft, 28 degrees with a 7-iron, whereas this is 32 degrees with a 7-iron, 36 with an 8. And if I had to put money on which one's going to go further out of 10 shots, or let's say the QI10 versus this, of course 1 out of 10, the QI10 is going to go further than this. This golfer needs help getting the ball up in the air. What about the other 9 shots that golfer just hit with that very de-lofted 7-iron? Final thoughts is that it's in this category of its own with the loft aspect, and also you can get fitted for it, £369. You can choose the set that you prefer. You can even get fitted, get the right shaft, get the right grip, get the right length, all of that kind of good stuff. Negatives, it won't set the world alike. It feels good. These pearlescent finishes never last well, so again, you're going to get quite a lot of scuff marks over the duration of the year. But for the type of golfer that buys these, his swing's going to change over the course of the year, and at £369, I don't think that's overly expensive. Right, what I've been waiting for. Ben Ross have taken a risk and they've gone big. However, have I got a 7-iron in this box? Come on, where are you? Tell you what, first glance, these look better than I thought. Ah, we got one. Go on the 7-iron. This is the first set that I've had in the studio, let's say affordable iron set, that I haven't found a blemish, a mark, anything wrong. Quality control wise, it's arguably the best. Now, before I pick these apart and obviously give you some negatives about them, I think we've got to appreciate we're in a great era of golf at the moment. The fact we're getting to the chance of having a £499 set of irons, 5 to gap wedge, or 4 to pitching wedge if that's what you would prefer in your club fit. But the fact we have the opportunity to have a £499 set of irons, 7 clubs in total, around £70 a stick, that looks as good as this and has the option of custom fitting. I mean, that just wasn't viable 10 years ago. Now I'll give you the specs down the right hand side here of the technology and all the other kind of jargon that goes with it, blah, 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 blah. But 30 degrees loft. So this is essentially a P790 contender. But there's a lot of P790 contenders. No wonder, because obviously if you're building a direct-to-consumer iron brand, of course you're going to kind of imitate one of the most popular iron brands that is out there. Oh yeah, just like the P790, it goes an incredibly long way. Hang on a minute, surely that can't be right. Why have you put it there? Is it just me, or does that just seem off-putting, having the little sticker just in your eye line as you stand over the golf? See the way I can just see it just on the left-hand side? Look, I've put the same kind of decal on this P790. See when it sits on the ground, it basically just merges in, like you can't even see it either side. It's basically just under either side. I didn't quite notice it with the aero, because see the way that kind of wraps around the bottom and this side's grey, so when you stand over it you don't notice the grey as much. You can almost see the KBS lined up perfectly down the centre of the shaft. The problem with that is the KBS sticker isn't actually the centre of the sticker, so it kind of just sits, well, basically on the left-hand side of the grip. Anyway, minor detail, even though I'd rather just have the decal taken off altogether. Oh, oh, it's a good time to be alive, ladies and gents. It's a good time to be alive when stuff like this can be made for the price that it is. Very impressed in terms of front to back dispersion. Normally with these kind of heads, you do get jumpy ones, and obviously I've only tested 5. But before I get into the few negatives, it's probably just as well I hit the P790, half a degree more lofted than this. And I have built it into a similar spec, i.e. the shaft, even though it's not exact. But the point is, these 2019 P790s that would have been £1,200 at one point are now the same price as those Ben Ross second hand. So if you've got a £500 budget for a new set of irons, which one are you going to pick? It's just so solid sounding. No wonder it's so popular. You just can't really beat the thing when it comes to sound and feel. Now, it's not really a negative, more personal preference, but I can just see the Ben Ross being more offset, bigger top line on the right-hand side. That's the Ben Ross. P790, just slightly sleeker. And don't get me wrong, the P790 is not a blade by any stretch of the imagination. But I want to get into the numbers. I want to show you the difference between these two. But I mean, come on, 499 set of irons versus what would have been £1,200 for 7 clubs at one point. And bearing in mind that gap would probably be even smaller if it wasn't being swung at 100 miles an hour. And yes, the P790, I was swinging that bit faster. Couldn't possibly tell you why, apart from maybe I was warmed up a tiny bit more. But that's why the ball speed is somewhat increased compared to obviously that. And this is potentially what the P790 has had problems with in the past. These just hot shots that just come out of nowhere. 142 miles an hour. However, in the P790's favor, so consistent in terms of spin numbers, so consistent in terms of descent angle, so consistent realistically, apart from that hot shot, in terms of carry distance. And of course, this isn't necessarily a club built for me. Whereas a bit more sporadic, let's say, with the Ben Ross. And again, would the average golfer looking to get fitted for these really notice that kind of difference? Or would I even notice that kind of difference on the golf course? Probably not. However, if there wasn't an offer for you to get fitted for a brand new set of these, choose a shaft grip, whatever, then it would be lumped in with all the other direct-to-consumer brands out there at the moment, virtually copying the exact same thing as this. But that's not the case, and you can get fitted for it. And at $499, I feel like these two options could be for two completely golfers. The more experienced player, knowing what they need, knowing what they want, knowing what set makeup shaft, go and get a second-hand of P790s, as it is ultimately the best. But if you're unsure with what length, what lie, what flex, what shaft, what grip size you want on your 499 set of irons that looks very good and performs incredibly similar, and this is obviously a very good viable option. Just ask to get the sticker put on straight. If you've got any questions on your golf game or golf bag, sasgolfacademy.com. Catch you guys later.